Hello, my name is Paul Jonston. My life as a child was interesting and hard. I was born in California, in LA, in a small gays community where there are rich cultural art, museums, Hollywood, galleries, movies, dance. Wow, I was so exposed to many things. My parents were both hearing, so there was no way to communicate. So we wrote everything down. My parents were enthusiasm exposing me to different things as far as art galleries and museums. I didn't realize I had a problem, so I was good at creating and having lots of ideas. I didn't have any brothers or sisters. I was the only child. Growing up, I always imagined and had ideas and was very creative. Really, my brothers were toys. I love little toy soldiers. I would make little wars. I would build buildings, mountains, and I would develop the setups. And that really helped me develop my skills and create an idea. I didn't realize I was born deaf. I had my hands, my arms, my face, my ears, my tongue, my teeth, everything. I thought I was the same as all hearing people. So I looked up to hearing people. I thought I would be the same as them. I haven't met any deaf people yet. So my hearing friends would talk really fast, and as I was learning and practicing, I would talk really slow. So I would get into a mirror and I would practice trying to speak faster, but I had no success. I can't forget one time my hearing friend was teaching me how to pronounce numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4. My friend was so excited. He can speak. So my friend and I, we went to a neighbor's house and their parents, and we showed them how I can pronounce numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And they applauded, and they were so happy that they can teach a deaf person. It felt oppressed. I didn't realize the values of understanding of a human being. And until I went to college, that's when I realized who I am. I took 3 or 4 different courses about history, deaf culture, and that was an impact, and it hit me hard, and I was really surprised. And that's when I realized I am a deaf person. Growing up, I didn't have a job, so I would always create and have ideas. But I realized I love to draw and act, but I always had this issue of saying I can't. And I kept constantly telling myself, I can't, I wish I can't. And then I felt isolated. My favorite 3 teachers were Dr. Bob Panera, Dr. Lloyd Galloway, and the third artist teacher were Dr. Tom Rocio. I believe they should share their stories of how they were successful as artists, and I want to be like that. So I want to get rid of the awful vocabulary, inferior. But the one thing important that I had a problem that bothers me a lot was oppression. It wasn't from hearing people. It wasn't from deaf people. It was people who are ignorant. That's who impressed me. And people who didn't have confidence in themselves and other people. So I told myself, I can do it. Growing up, I depended on other people to make my decisions for me. Now it's my time to make the decision for myself. So I went to the Rochester Institution of Technology, which is connected to NITD, National Technical Institute for the Deaf. That had really had an impact on me as well. Many artists don't know anything about deaf culture. So it was hard being in a school with hearing people. So I felt that the need of trying to make my own decisions and getting through college and becoming independent and having confidence and being strong and giving myself guts. Before I graduated from NITD, I grew up in a deaf community in a residential schools. Being with people who can sign and socialize with people who know signs. And removing myself from the NITD and not being involved with deaf people. So I was trying to figure out what should I do after I graduate. So I wanted to sit down with an advisor and figure out what I want to do. What I want to do with my art. Who am I? So I decided I wanted to go to Penn State University. So in the fall of senior year, I finally decided I want to be independent and make my own decisions and not depend on other people. So I went to the library and I grabbed different catalog books and I looked over and I found out I can apply by myself. So that experience will give me independence. So I decided to apply to 8 different schools. Maybe one will accept me and the other 7 will turn me down. So I will play it safe. And then later, all 8 accept me. So that made it worse. So I had to finally pick one school to attend. So I decided to major in furniture design and woodwork. I picked that major because I wanted to go to a college where I can learn, have fun, and enjoy myself. And train to be a better man? No. But to train to be a better human being and have a confidence and better attitude. So before I took the courses, I introduced myself. I encouraged myself to not be so negative. And I realized I was like all normal people. Black, white, Jewish, prisoners, gangs, we're all the same. What's the difference between hearing people and deaf people? There is no difference. We're all human beings. It's such like a diversity. It depends on what you learn and where they learn and where you live, but we're all the same. So Penn State University is where I choose. So I told my friends that I wanted to go to Penn State. My friends said, "What? You going to Penn State? Why?" For a challenge. I don't believe that. How can you manage in the hearing world? There's no deaf people. There's no signs. No one to communicate with. I was really surprised how they backed up. They grew up in a residential school, where a place where it's always signing. I really want to test myself and see how I can live in a hearing world and how I can meet new friends and don't have an assistant. So my first day at Penn State University, I walked out of my bedroom. I realized this is Penn State and not a residential school. It was really a hearing residential school. There were people who didn't know anything about deaf culture, anything about deafness, so I kept a positive attitude. It was normal for me. In order for me to find the registration office, it was important for me to keep a pencil and a pad. I had it in my front pocket, so I looked like a nerd. There were no one signing. Everyone was walking, holding their books, just walking by. So I glanced at a map. I felt like I was in survival camp. I walked up and asked someone a question, and they looked at me oddly, and it really confused me, so I wrote it down on my pad. And I asked, where's the registration office? And they were giving me this direction, that direction, so I had to figure out by the body language. And there was a lot of mistakes, and I got really frustrated. Now, I remember I had to get rid of another vocabulary, withdrawal. I said, oh my God, I want to withdraw. I don't want that. I know where to find a withdrawal form. I know how to find it, and I know how to sign it. So I finally go to the registration. I made it through and had no problems, and I survived. The first year, people were strange. They didn't know how to accept to communicate with someone who's deaf in the program. They didn't know how to communicate with someone who had a handicap. So with my ability and personality and my creativity,